Hey guys, Mark and I were just having a wee laugh there by one of the other episodes where Mark wanted to call all our members old cows. Well, we're talking anyway. If you probably listen to it anyway about old bulls and old cows. So we have so much fun recording these
I got
episodes.
myself into the wrong lane, then realised halfway through it, oh fuck, how am I getting out of this one?
We like to call our more mature members wise women, Mark.
Wise women,
wise women, wise women.
Old bull and wise woman.
Old bulls and wise women. So what we're going to talk about today, this is going to be a slightly shorter episode because I just wanted Mark to talk very briefly about why women have a fear of getting fat. And Mark will not know why we have a fear of getting fat, but he will be able to tell you the differences that he sees in his athletes who come into him. We've talked about this over many, many years whenever I've been training with Mark, and he will talk a bit about the differences. I'm going to get him to do it now between men and women and what he sees, and then how that actually then comes out in the results. So Mark, tell us the difference between you training a male athlete and generally and you training a female athlete, and then what the mindset of the elite female athletes that you train are that is different from the average population.
I think if you go back in time, firstly, about 15, 20 years ago, whenever I first got into bodybuilding, maybe 25 years ago, and you realize back then there was two distinct seasons and two distinct phases in bodybuilding. So you had your off season where it was all about building the most amount of muscle. And then you had your pre-contest where it was about getting rid of all the excess body fat to unveil all the muscle and the new muscle that you had built. And for all of intents purposes, my belief and a lot of the old school bodybuilders' belief, and to be fair, I don't think it's been matched today in terms of mass anyway, was that in order to gain the most amount of muscle, you had to pack in loads of good food. Now, that doesn't mean you have to eat pizzas and chocolate and everything else. Loads of good, high-quality, nutritious food and train like an absolute idiot. So heavy weights, lots of big amounts of food. Be prepared to get uncomfortable in the off-season. I've seen my off-season weight up at 330 pounds, where my contest weight was 270, 280. So that's 50 to 60 pounds over it. Now, did I look slightly overweight? Absolutely. I looked a lot bigger, fuller. Wouldn't have said I looked fat per se.
Fat bastard, Mark?
Fat bastard. I'm just going to go with it. Old cow.
Old bull.
But in order to get on that stage, we knew this is what you did, because the more food going in, the more weight I could lift, more energy I had, the more weight I could lift, the stronger I got, the more muscle I got. And then when I started dieting, all that new muscle came out. And I applied that principle every off season into every show, and every show I gained more muscle and more muscle. And
how long is an off season, Mark?
An off season for me was 6 to 9 months, depending on the show. But an off season for me, Kim, was whenever I stepped off the stage of the last show until I started dieting for the next show. So say my show wasn't for 18 months, I could have a year's off season. Do you know what I mean? I've seen me doing a year's off season. I've seen me doing 2 years off season. I've seen me in as short as off season as 3 to 6 months, depending on the next show. But the whole goal of the off season was to get massively strong and massively big and pack on as much muscle as possible, So that was the philosophy we did, and everybody done it, and everybody got the results. Fast forward in time, you're now getting a lot of the guys as well to try to stay lean in the off season because they don't want to add weight. And obviously what you're dealing with as well is women definitely don't want to add any excess weight in the off season. Do you know what I mean? They're looking to stay lean all year round, or they're looking to, sort of not eat as much food because they feel that the more calories they're eating, the more fat they're going to put on.
Is this because of social media, do you think?
It's massively.
Tell us about old school bodybuilding years ago compared to today when social media didn't exist.
Well, basically you had the guys in the magazines and you had the guys in the shows and you seen what they were doing, and everybody sort of had got on and everybody was open to talk about things. At the end of the day, back then, the majority of the emphasis was placed on food and diet. It wasn't placed on drugs and all the shit that's placed on today. We knew that we had a show to do, and basically everything was based towards that. So all the nutrition principles were simple. All the training principles were simple. Everybody trained like an absolute.
And you didn't see anyone from year to year.
You didn't see nobody, and you had no photo shoots and none of this here. So you basically were dieting and training for these shows, and that's when you seen everybody once a year. And like the competition was so rife. It was hard. It was massive. It was big. The standard was really high. And you knew you had to come in your A game, so you had to make everything count. Bodybuilding 20 years ago, 15 years ago was amazing. It was unbelievable. It was a great time to be in bodybuilding. I called it the golden era. I was getting into it just when in my opinion, all the best legends were coming out, and I'm privileged to be part of it. Nowadays, it's completely different. Everybody cares what everybody thinks about them. You know what I mean? Back then, nobody gave a shit.
Where's that blind to be back to talking?
Everybody sort of got on. Everybody trained hard. Nobody gave a shit what anybody said, because you knew you had that goal. You earned your stripes. by stepping on a stage and winning stuff. Do you know what I mean? You didn't earn your stripes by mouthing on social media and telling everybody when you were built like a budgie's hardener how to put on muscle. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's
built like a budgie's hardener. That is a budgie's erection, just so you know what that in Northern Ireland speak.
Basically, it's a skinny dude. Do you know what I mean? If you want to go that bit further. So, you know, you took advice from the best were giving you advice. Nowadays, people want to take advice from some idiot that's shouting the loudest from the corner of the room. The analogy I always take is I used to walk into a gym. When I walked into a gym, I looked for the biggest, baddest fucker in the gym if I wanted to put on muscle, and that's who I went to. Nowadays they walk in and whoever's spouting the most amount of shit,
whoever has the biggest amount of social media followers, and then what'll happen is, because I see this a lot as well. I do you know what? I'm going to tell you a story about somebody we both know, and I'll tell you who it is afterwards. So this person, I'm not even going to say male or female. This person went to train with a trainer, and they were training with this person online. And I said, "Why are you training with this person online? Why don't you go to Mark in Lisburn and have Mark train you, you know, for a show?" And they were like, no, I think that this person has, you know, has done this and has done. And I said, this person has nowhere near the accolades that Mark has, but also you have the advantage of Mark being here physically with you, that you can, you know, that he can actually gauge your progress. And this person went on to say, well, to be honest, this person I'm training with has a really big social media following, and every time they shout me out or they repost my pictures on their story, I get loads more followers. So I you know, that's good for business. So I want to stay with this person. And I was like, I was lost for words. I was astounded. I was like, that just shows. And by the way, it's not very often that you'll find me at a loss for words, but that just shows that shows the philosophy, that shows the mindset of today. I'd rather train with this person who can get me more social media followers and more notoriety than the person with the most experience that'll get me the results that I actually crave.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I think the other, and I think I know who you're talking about, I think in the gym that day, I told him he had 10 more pounds to lose. Do you remember that then? Yes. I think he took it too well. Yeah. Whereas his so-called trainer was telling me he was ready for the stage, where I was like, even our £10 to lose. Her was a woman. Sorry, it was her. A woman.
Yeah. Looks sick, Mark.
Photographically beautiful one.
Yeah.
Sorry. But, you know, so at the end of the day, that is the way it is, you know. So, you know, back in the day, you had nobody to impress, you didn't care, you got on with it, you stayed in your own lane, you turned up at the show, you won or lost, you went back to the drawing board, you've done it all again. Nowadays, the mindset has shifted, and I need to look good constantly. So all year round. So therefore, I'm not worried about making improvements. The physiques, in my opinion, have been downgraded. They've definitely went a lot less. The standards lower, both in the professional and the amateur ranks, and that's what I put it down to. People don't want to work hard anymore. They want to do the new, improved.
Well, they care more about what their followers on social media think of. They care more about the little dopamine hits they get from the likes and the follows and the comments than they do from actually standing on stage and the judge is saying, yes, you can see that person put the work in because their physique looks different from year to year. Years ago, the likes of Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman's and all of, you know, the giants, they didn't have any of that. They had no one, you know, photograph. They had no mirrors in the gym where they were fucking taking selfies and posting them on social media. So no, as Mark always used to tell me, the only way you could gauge how much work someone had done all year was by their physique when they stepped on stage. But worse than that, you couldn't measure yourself against anyone else. You couldn't see how big they were getting or how lean they were getting or anything because you had no idea. So all you could do was work your hardest that you could work because
you knew they were doing
and the fear was that you would stand on stage and be smaller, and so it was almost like it was like Christmas at every show
and it was brilliant because everybody worked their ass off to do it. And I think the mindset nowadays is completely changed. You know, whenever I'm working with people now, it used to be you give them a diet, right? And I think now it's probably a wee bit less common now to say that men are probably just as bad now, Kim, as women are, believe it or not. Certain men in certain categories are just as bad in terms of the mindset, and you having to make them eat food because they're afraid of getting fat. They're actually afraid of their abs disappearing for a few months in order for the bigger goal. You know, I know a guy that actually left bodybuilding after his first show because in the first few weeks his reverse diet was shit, that he ended up putting on a stone and he ended up freaking out and stopped training in the gym now because he had put on so much weight. So much weight is 14 pounds after a show. It's not that much weight at the end of the day. So that's what I'm saying. People's heads can't deal with it because they're usually used to being a specific way when they're on prep, and then when they come off it, they're not happy with how they look. The athletes that I train, the difference between sort of the big ones or the elite ones, as we'll say, is they've the mindset of doing whatever the fuck it takes. So if I turn around and said, I need you to drink 10 litres of water a day, you sure it's 10 and not 8 or maybe 6? I don't really like water, Mark. It's okay, no problem. I'll drink 10 liters.
Sure.
I want to push the food up to massive amounts so that you're strong in the gym. That's no problem. You tell me what to do. I had a girl this year online who came to me at the start. This is no word of a lie. And she basically said to me, she's a fear. She said straight out that every time she gets to a point, she self-implodes because she doesn't want to put on as much weight. And this is true as God. And I can show you her pictures here just to see, right, what she's done in a few months, right, 6 months. So I said, listen, you need to get that out. So I took a wee call for her, and I basically said, look, this is what you have to do in a space of time in order to do what you need to do. So she was eating 1,200 calories. And I said, look, we need to get that up, right?
That's ridiculous.
I know, 100%, right? So she said to me, right, I'll listen to you and we'll do whatever it takes, right? So she turns around anyway, and basically after 6 months, that's the before, that's the after so far.
Holy shit. Wow.
1,200 calories.
Amazing.
4,000 calories.
They're all going, we want to see. Here, I'll show them here. She won't mind us showing, will she? So the bottom is 1,200 calories and the top is how much?
4,000 calories.
4,000 calories. Look at her legs.
Look at her glutes. Look
like,
at her abs.
That is amazing.
She's leaner in the top than she is in the bottom. And she's on 2,800 calories more. That girl trains like an absolute
mofo
demon. Right? You could put her in with you or me and she won't look out of place. Do you know what I mean? And that's what the hard work's done. And she has upped her calories by 2,800. 2,800.
Like me, when I started bodybuilding, I was eating 1,400 calories a day. And I think on my highest,
you were nearly 4,000.
Nearly 4,000, 3,800 on my highest. I was like, get me on the food. And I didn't even find it hard to eat that amount of food.
What's the common denominator here? Did you ever get fat?
No, never. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I went up to about 23% body fat, 24% body fat.
Nice and round and full in the arms. You know what I mean? I
didn't have shredded abs. I didn't have striations, but I certainly, you wouldn't have looked at me and said, oh, fuck, she's a bit of a heifer. She needs to lose weight.
But the problem with most people is getting even her around to that way of thinking.
They're not even prepared to go to the 23%.
They're not going to do it. And I said that to her. The first conversation me and her had was, look, if you're not prepared to do what I tell you to do, there's no point you wasting your money. Because I'm going to tell you you have to eat more. I'm going to train you. I'm going to tell you have to train heavier. So it's up to you. So that day she said, look, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I said, right, well, you have to trust me. But I promise you in a few weeks, will you see the difference? And she has. She's one of the very few ones that actually stuck through her mindset, switched it about, and now realizes, how the fuck could I have done that without eating food? And that's the difference between the elite ones now and the ones that don't want to know. Most people, when you start mentioning food, they start thinking they're going to get fat. They start thinking that, you know, oh, I'm only on 1,200 calories and I'm maintaining. So if I go up to 1,600, I'm going to get fat. Yeah, you might do if you're eating the wrong foods and if you're not training hard enough. But if you're doing everything that you're told to do, you won't get fat.
Do you know where I think it comes from now that you're just talking and I'm thinking about it? I was talking about this with Laura yesterday and I said to her, before I did my first prep for my show, I had never ever been stage lean before. So I actually had no data that it was possible. And so that's why whenever Curtis gave me my first ever diet, I didn't actually bother to follow it. I just did my own thing because I was very defiant. And I learned my lesson very, very harshly because I really wasn't lean for that first show at all. Despite doing copious amounts of cardio and copious amounts of training, I still hardly lost any body fat. And so I learned the hard way that you really do have to follow the plan. But in the back of your mind, whenever you've never gotten as lean as you can get when you follow the plan and get stage lean, you don't honestly believe that it's possible, Mark. And so therefore you doubt what your trainer tells you. So you're terrified to put on body fat because your goal, most people's goal for a show, or my goal for a show was I wanted to look like I wanted to be ripped to the bone, right? That was like so exciting for me to be in that stage lean condition. And I didn't want to do anything that was going to move me in the opposite direction. So whenever you're saying to me, eat more, and I'm going, but I'm already 18% body fat. I might go to like 23% body fat. The fear in the back of your mind is, what if I don't ever get it off? What if it means I'll never achieve my goal? And that, you know, it's almost like in business, you know, like we've just spent, I think, well, we haven't finished yet, but by the time this program, Extreme Body Makeovers, finished its promotion, we did a 3-week promotion period. I think we've currently spent about £240,000 on Facebook ads, £250,000 on Facebook ads in under 3 weeks, right? And people are like, $250,000 on Facebook ads. But I'm like, but you have to take that sacrifice for the payoff on the other side. You have to take the risk to get the payoff. The reward, even me, whenever I first, started launch my very first program, I spent 10,000 on Facebook ads and I had zero data that it was going to work. None. All I had was a hope and a wing and a prayer that the plan that I was following, because I'd bought a plan from a successful entrepreneur and I was following her webinar plan. And all I could do was follow the plan and trust that it would work. And thank God that it did, because look where I am now. So but you don't want to, and a lot of people don't want to do that in business. They're like, oh my God, you had no money and you invested 10,000 on a credit card. Like, see, if that had gone tits up, I had no way to pay that 10 grand off. But I had to take the risk because the plan said, the girl said, if you do all of this and follow my plan, and I knew that I was willing to do whatever it took. And let me tell you, I fucking hustled for every single one of those sales. I hustled. And I made $52,000 in that first launch. So my point is, sometimes you have to go the opposite road. You have to get more into debt, or you have to put on more body fat in order to reach this goal on the other side. Because if you're lean already, and you don't increase your metabolism, you're never going to reach stage lean. Your body won't be able to go there because you need to increase your metabolism first.
You need to increase your metabolism, and you also want to look different every show. So if you're not willing to ever put yourself out of shape slightly in order to put on more muscle or to be more energetic so that you can train harder, be stronger, you're never going to build any muscle. So therefore, you're going to consistently always get to the same point and look always the same way. That's the issue. I've seen it umpteen amounts of time in bodybuilding shows, the same athletes, male and female, coming back year after year looking exactly the same, and they always get exactly the same reward. They don't win.
No.
And that's the reason why, because they don't do the work in the off season, and then they're only prepared, or maybe they can only get so far in the pre-contest. The off season is always and has always been the most important part of anybody's prep. Now, okay, yes, if you don't diet, you're fucked as well, so that's important too. But what I'm saying is, what you do in this first 12 weeks is going to determine what you're going to look like in the last 12 weeks. It works, they both correlate. So if people think the best thing to do is, oh, I'm going to get a head start here, I'm going to start dieting on day one, I'm not going to follow it, I'm going to just diet, you're fucked.
Yeah, you
are fucked, because it's a long diet for 24 weeks.
Tell you something before we continue, and then I want to ask you, so keep this in your mind. Men find it easier to follow rules than women? But before you do that, Red, who cleans my car. I have a guy who looks after all my cars for me. He sprays my wheels, he changes my tires, he does everything. He just drove past and saw Mark's car there, and he was like, he messaged me, he was like, is the white BMW there again? Does it need cleaned? And I said, yes, please. So he's coming back for your car, so I need your keys.
Where are they at?
I don't know. Do you know where you left them? No.
Somewhere.
Well, I need to, because I don't want the girls to knock, so I want you to give me the keys now so I can give them to the girls, if you can. Are they there? Okay, let me go and give them to the girls. So Mark, what I want to talk about now, this is how we do things around here. Just interrupt the podcast for to get the keys.
And trust me, probably the reason he's just drove by is because it's probably black again from the last
time. It is. Well, the last time Mark was here, I got his car cleaned for him because I'm very into clean cars. Mark, do men find it easier to follow rules than women? Is that why men usually, if you give them a plan, will just follow it because they're used to being told what to do, whereas women are a bit more defiant?
I think in general, yes. To the general masses, yes, that's true. I think most of the time, normally, if you get the right sort of people, men will follow a plan easier than a woman will. But in saying that,
why is that though? Is it because you're used to being told what to do?
I think so. I think men work better being told what to do.
Structure?
Yeah, well, men work better with routine and structure. I know me in my life, I work better with routine, I work better with structure. And believe it or not, I work better with Lee telling me where I have to be, when I have to be there, and what I'm doing. So that to me is easy. All I have to do is follow that regiment, and I know everything gets done.
Well, same with me. With whenever we work together in business, I'm like, Mark, here's your computer, here's your microphone, here's your earphones.
Even still today, you're doing that.
I know, it's all set up for you. Just open it, click the button, go here.
I'll be here at the time I need to be here. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll go home and open the computer at the time I need to do. So I'll follow that, and then it makes life a lot easier. But I'll do that to the T. I'll do that to the letter. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing that's programmed into my brain, or most fellas that I see, very simplistic creatures. Like, I'll openly admit, we are shit at multitasking. If you put me in Lee's life or your life for 2 hours, I'd jump out, throw a rope up, and jump off the tree. I just couldn't hack it because it's all over the place. Whereas people will go, Mark, you're flat out. And I go, I'm not really. I'm in the one place at the same time. It's easy. It's just nice and easy. And it works like that. My routine is everything. So I think in that respect, we're good at following plans, because as long as it's set out in front of us, we know exactly.
Because when you tell a man, you've always said this to me, if you say to a man, you need to eat more, you need to eat this amount of calories, the man goes, okay, no problem. Men aren't scared of eating, whereas women are scared of eating, aren't we?
What you'll find as well is there's no question in the plan.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, right, you need to do this. All right. You need to do this. Any questions? No. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right. Woman, right. This is the plan. Can I have sugar-free this?
Oh, can I add some sugar-free syrup? Or can I add a little teaspoon of stevia to my porridge? And can I make my porridge into oats?
Yeah, just follow what's on the fucking.
Or no, can I make my oats into pancakes?
I had a girl one time send me this. She tagged me. She's been fly as fuck. She tagged me prep 6 months or 6 weeks out. And she tagged me in this photo that she put up about these pancakes. Now I know why she did it. And
the pancakes are becoming an issue now.
I fucking hate these pancakes, right? So these pancake posts anyway. So I text back going, keep me. She got back going, no breakfast. And I goes, fuck, funny, that breakfast doesn't look like the breakfast I sent you. She read going, improvising. And I read going, improvising doesn't win you a fucking show.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And that was that. So I know what she wanted to do there, but she sent that through to see what I would say. Do you know what I mean? In other words, if I put that in there,
get away with it?
Yes, if I put that in there and he doesn't comment, then it's okay. But if I put that there and he comments, then I might not do it.
So she knew that it wasn't okay.
Fucking knew it wasn't on it. There was no Nutella, there was no sugar-free anything. It was just oats, protein powder. That's all you have. Don't be putting anything else in it. There doesn't say
oats
Nutella,
made with water.
Oats made with water. It doesn't say almond milk or anything else. It just said oats and protein. Stick to what's on the thing.
Because we always get that. We get like, oh, can I add a little bit of sugar-free syrup to my porridge? And you're does it say sugar-free syrup on the plan? What about some almond milk? Can I add some almond milk on the top? Does it say splash of almond milk on the plan? No. Oh, can I make my oats? I can't make oats with water. I don't like oats made with water.
That all the time.
Mark, I only like oats that are made with plant milk. Can I make my oats with plant milk? Does it say make your oats with plant milk on the plan?
That's what you're aiming for. So I think in that respect, that's the big difference between men and women. I will go one step further here, right? And I will give women a lot of kudos here. Ooh. Do you see when you're getting the elite woman, like yourself or the Haleys or anybody else? That's a different
Haley, one of our judges.
If you turn around and tell them woman to run through the fucking wall, right? They will run through the wall. There won't be a, can I not just open the door? They'll run through the wall and then they'll go back through the wall again, right? Whereas if you ask a man on the same level, he'll open the door, walk outside, get to the other side and walk back in again. So the difference is when you get it at a general level, men will follow a plan better. When you get it at an elite level, them women will go far further than any man.
Is it something to do with, like they say women have a, I was reading a study recently, women have a higher general pain threshold than men. But witty here, men, if they are ever in a threatening situation, like say you were in a situation where someone was threatening one of your children, right? Yeah. And you had to fight for your life or their life. Men's brains, interestingly, turn off pain receptors in their body. Did you know that? Right. That's why men can get into a fight and literally be completely eviscerated and not feel a thing, like covered in blood, kicked, whatever. Because when men go into this fight or flight mode, especially when they're in protective mode, all of their pain receptors turn off, and women don't have that. Right. And so it was funny. It was actually Ryan was reading the study, and he then no, it wasn't. It was my coach actually was telling me about it. But I thought it was so interesting. So women, I think, whenever you get to the hard stages of prep, they have probably a higher pain threshold or tolerance.
Yeah, 100%.
Or discomfort.
Women will go further than a man on a bodybuilding prep. That is fact.
Because it's discomfort on a daily basis.
I would argue any person to tell me and show me evidence. I have prepped hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 people, and I can tell you easily women work harder than men. That is fact. But only the elite woman. If you're taking the general man versus the general woman, the man will work harder.
Right, in general.
If you have two people just into the gym to train, the man will put more work in. The woman tends to be a wee bit fluffy, more excuses, not turning up as much. You know, my main cancellations are women.
Do you know,
fantastic excuses.
I always say it's a terrible, terrible analogy, especially for our American friends. But I always say that the reason why terrorist organizations exist is because they're run by men, and not because men are more likely to want to blow up countries or to cause, destruction, but because if terrorist organizations were up to women, they would only last a week or two, because all the women would show up. Yeah, we're going to do this, whatever. And then the next week it would be like half of them would show up. And then it would be like, oh, well, I was washing my hair, or the children needed me, or I just didn't feel like it this week. And week after week after week, they would fizzle out. But the reason why terrorist organizations exist is because men are willing to show up every week, do what they're told, not question the plan, and and cause mass destruction, which isn't a good thing. That is why terrorist organizations exist. Fucking run by men.
But you're right. But it's an interesting concept that on a daily basis, on my general gym basis, men will show up better. They'll do the work better. But if you bring it up to elite athlete level where they're stepping on a stage, women will show up more and will train harder and won't pull out as easy. Guaranteed.
Interesting.
Two completely different concepts. If you were asking me on a day-to-day basis who I would rather train, it would probably be fellas. You know, if you were to ask me on a day-to-day basis who I would rather train for a show, women all day long.
Right.
If I was picking my main clientele being one, if I had to pick one, it would be women. Like you think about it, Kim, right? I'm, 19 stone on stage. You would think my main appeal would be fellas. Do you know what I mean? What's the majority of my clients?
Yeah, women. Yeah, you're right.
All the time. And I've preferred working, like I've said it for years down the line, I prefer working with women. All my best results came with women.
Mark, it's just all because we have daddy issues, I hate to tell you.
That's all right.
We're just all like, Mark, our big protector.
Big protector. I'm easy with that because you do exactly what you need to do. There's no question, there's no bullshit, there's no crap. It's just right, run through the wall, boom, the walls broke down. Yeah. It's unreal, the difference. It's unreal where a woman will go to in a prep compared to a man. Oh, different story. Even me, I'd put myself in that. I'd say I won't work as hard as any of the girls I've trained for prep, any of the proper top-rated girls I've trained for prep.
Interesting. So I think the takeaway from this is, because we need to finish, because we actually have a Zoom call in 10 minutes, but I'm making him work hard these days. Mark thought he worked hard before he came in.
I was getting easy. Routine.
Before he came and joined Extreme Body Maker, we only thought he was working hard. But I think the takeaway from this is that don't be afraid to get fat. You're going to put on a little bit of body fat. It's normal. How you measure, that was the last one, how you measure your strength is, how you measure your progress is if your strength's
way
up
it's still
in the
a
gym.
good gauge in this as well. If you are putting on a wee bit of body fat and you're getting stronger, there's the trade-off.
And you're going to lose the body fat in the last 12 weeks. So don't be afraid to just trust the plan and follow the plan, because women, whenever push comes to shove and they're in that final stages of really pushing hard and getting lean, women can come through and you are stronger than you think you are.
A lot easier than any fella, I guarantee. A lot more people, you don't give yourselves enough credit. Just follow what needs to be done. Push the calories up in the off season of the first 12 weeks. Get yourself to a place where your metabolism's running nice and fast. Train hard and heavy during that time, and you're setting yourself up for a brilliant last 12 weeks. Yeah, love it. Mark, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for letting me take a little sabbatical to get your car cleaned in the middle of it. Mark just saw his car driving out there thinking, I hope this guy's going to bring it back so I can get home. Wheels gone on eBay later on. He'll be back in an hour. He'll be back in an hour, I promise you. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Hope you're enjoying these episodes of EBM TV. We are going to drop more very soon. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time to record any today, but we're going to get Mark back here to talk about our favorite subject, which is bodybuilding, very soon. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the group. We will be delighted to answer them in a podcast episode, or maybe we could do like a Q&A podcast episode one day where we just do like general questions. That might actually be a really good thing too. So whatever you want to see, whatever you want to see in these episodes, we're going to keep recording them over the next 6 months. So just let us know. We can put them in there. And thank you so much for showing up today. And Mark, thanks again for being here. My pleasure as always. And thank you all for listening. Okay, wonderful. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.